ทุกท่านจะได้มาพบกับความท้าทายแล้วก็กุญแจที่จะนำทุกท่านไปติดตามกันนะคะว่ามันจะมีอะไรที่เป็น Key Success ให้เราได้ติดตามกันค่ะว่าเราอยากทันสตาร์ทอัพเราอยากให้ Business Idea ของเราเนี่ยมันสามารถเติบโตได้ต่อไปนะคะ Alright, everyone, we have many words talking about that startups need support at various stages of growth for securing funding at the early stage is especially critical. If you are the first time entrepreneur with a unique and differentiated business idea and you want to take your first step in the startup, differentiated businesses, what are the key? Alright, upon this stage, we're left to talking about nurturing startups, key challenges, and promising strategy. We are pleased to welcome our distinguished speaker on the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hand for Professor Philip Kim from Basins College.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending Day 3 of Startup Thailand 2016, and especially staying for this keynote address. Thank you to the various ministries of the Thai government who convened this very important event, and to the conference organizers who have invited me to speak to you. I appreciate the very kind introduction and your warm hospitality granted to me so far. And I'd like to say thank you to Made by SLK and Horn Associates for helping me prepare these remarks for you. I bring you greetings from the U.S. and from my host organization, my own organization, Babson College, especially to those of you who have some connection to the school. If you're an alumni or past participant of one of our programs or have some other connection with us, it's great to be in the same room with you. I'd love to greet you personally after my talk, and so please do introduce yourself to me. Startup Thailand 2016 is a very important event to spur greater entrepreneurial activity throughout this country. I've enjoyed participating in the expo so far. It's an impressive gathering, as we've just seen, of accomplished entrepreneurs, investors, government officials, policymakers, academics, corporate leaders, and other important members of the entrepreneurial ecosystem in this country. I am an entrepreneurship professor at Babson College, one of the world's leading schools for entrepreneurship research and education. At Babson, our mission is to educate entrepreneurial leaders who create great economic and social value everywhere. As an academic, I've had the privilege of spending the last 15 years studying different facets of how new ventures are started, grown, and matured. During the same time frame, I have taught entrepreneurship to a wide range of constituents: undergraduate students, graduate students, working professionals, business and non-business majors alike. I know from firsthand experience the challenges and excitement such education brings to both students and educators like myself. For my keynote address this morning, I've been asked to provide some insights on the topic of nurturing startups, in line with the community theme of this last day of the expo. During this keynote address, I will share with you some specific examples from my own school, Babson College, and other observations I've made regarding key challenges for nurturing startups and promising strategies to overcome these challenges. While many great ideas have already been shared during this expo about helping startups after they have launched, I'm going to focus on how to nurture them in the first place, even before they get started. Before I begin discussing these observations, I want to say a few words about the format of our session together. Since we have about an hour, I'd like to make it a bit interactive. It's Sunday and we can be a little more relaxed. And so I'm going to use some techniques that I might be using in a typical class back home that I would lead. I know you've been participating in a lot of exciting sessions so far, and I'm sure you're swimming in a lot of new information. And so I want to keep you engaged with the ideas I'm going to share with you. So throughout the address, I'm going to be asking you some specific questions that I'd like for you to discuss with the people that are sitting around you. And so to help you all feel a little comfortable with doing that, can you please take a minute right now and just say hello to the people that are sitting next to you or around you. Introduce yourselves, especially if you don't know each other, and let's do this for the next minute. So please, say hello to the people that are sitting around you, and we'll continue in just a moment. All right, why don't we come back together? Thank you for introducing yourselves to one another. Perhaps you'll make a new friend or a contact during our time together in conversation. All right, so let's begin with some observations. And I'm going to start with a puzzle. As an academic, I enjoy working on puzzles. And here's a puzzle that I'd like for all of us to solve. And so I'm going to start this off with a discussion question for you. What percentage of the Thai workforce considers entrepreneurship a good career choice? What percentage of the Thai workforce considers entrepreneurship a good career choice? I'm going to give you three choices to help you in your decision making. Number one, or A, 34%, B, 58%, or C, 72%. So why don't you take a minute, turn to the people to whom you've just introduced yourself, and discuss what your answer to this question might be. Okay, so I'd like to bring our group back together, and let's see what the right answer might be. But before I give you the right answer, I'd like to hear from all of you what your answer is to this question. So if you selected choice A, 34%, would you kindly stand up? Would you kindly stand up if you believe it's 34%? Great. So it's about a third of the room. Thank you very much. You can be seated. If you believe it's choice B, 58%, would you please stand? All right. Maybe another third or so have stood up. Thank you very much. You may be seated. And then finally, choice C, 72%. Would you please stand up? It seems like we have the fewest who have stood up for this last option. Thank you very much. So the answer to this question is actually 72%. So for those of you who stood up for that option, congratulations. You have selected the correct answer. 72% of the Thai workforce considers entrepreneurship a good career choice according to the 2016 Global Entrepreneurship Report. All right, now that we have one question answered, let's go on to the next one. What percentage of the Thai workforce intends to start a business in the next 3 years? Again, I'm going to give you three answers from which to choose. A, 17%, B, 39%, and C, 63%. All right, so in your small groups, why don't you discuss the answer to this question, and then I will call us to a vote in a minute. All right, thank you very much for discussing this question. So again, I'm going to ask you to stand to express your answer choice. So for those of you who believe it's A, 17%, will you kindly stand for me, please? All right, so perhaps 20% or 25% of the room, thank you very much. Option B, 39%, please stand. Okay, another third of the room, thank you very much. And then answer C, 63%. All right, maybe 40% of the room has stood up, thank you very much. And so the answer to this question is 17%. 17% according to the 2016 Global Entrepreneurship Report. Are you surprised? Why is there such a big drop-off between the first number, 72%, and the second number, 17%? This 55% gap represents about 22 million working adults. Of course, there are many obvious reasons why the number differs so dramatically. Perhaps there's financial reasons why you don't go into business, family considerations, government regulations or policies, you don't have a good business idea, a low propensity for risk, the relative comfort of a current work situation, and so on and so on. We don't want everybody to become an entrepreneur, since there are clear benefits to other career choices, but even above and beyond these reasons, the gap still remains quite large. So, is this unique just to Thailand? It isn't. The same drop-off exists around the world. According to the GEM study, about 2/3 of the workforce in emerging economies surveyed report that entrepreneurship is a good choice, but only 21% actually have plans to follow through on those interests. Even in the more advanced economies, the gap exists. For example, in the US, only about 12% report an interest in starting a business in the near future. So, around the world, we see the same issue present, that while many people view entrepreneurship positively, only a few will actually take action on these interests. While the desire is there, many people believe that it is not feasible for them to do it. I call this the Entrepreneurial Action Gap. So, as an educator, as an academic, the size of this gap is something that makes me curious. It's a puzzle that doesn't have a clear answer. I see it in my students who wrestle with how and when and what ways they will plan to take entrepreneurial action in their careers. I see it and I hear it when I talk to working professionals who describe a potential entrepreneurial idea, but then become hesitant when it comes to pursuing these dreams of theirs. The entrepreneurial action gap exists around the world and across all generations. I want our session to be a practical one. I want us to think about what steps can be taken to narrow this gap, especially for those in the Thai workforce who see entrepreneurship as a good career choice, but still are reluctant to pursue this course in their careers. Perhaps some of you, even this morning, count yourselves in that number. I'm sure you've had lots of opportunities this these past few days to interact with many smart and accomplished people regarding the different facets of this puzzle. But for our time that remains in our session, I want to highlight some practical strategies about what academic institutions can do to nurture people, especially young people, to realize their entrepreneurial potential and to take action on those personal desires. So to discuss these practical strategies of narrowing the entrepreneurial action gap, I'd like to use the analogy of raising a child. Whether you have direct experience raising your own children like me, caring for other children, or remember what it's like growing up as a child yourself, we all have some connections to raising a child. This should be something we can all recognize. Babies come into this world after a period of pregnancy in a mother's womb. Infants are highly dependent on their parents and other caregivers during the first weeks and months of their lives. Once they become toddlers, young children are able to explore the world in which they live. They walk, they run, they talk to others in their native tongue. When they reach the elementary school years, the young children are now learning more about themselves and their personal interests. They read stories in books that give them a chance to imagine different places and different settings. They play in a more sophisticated manner, whether it's through sports, structured activities, or just having fun on a playground. Eventually, these young children grow old enough to enter into their teenage years. The teenager seeks more independence, while the parents are not always willing to offer it. The teenager tries to act more like an adult, but at the same time is still a child. Rebellion, anger, and sadness are mixed with playfulness, joy, and a free spirit. When teenagers become young adults, they are now expected to be more responsible about their life choices, about their relationships, and about their decisions. They begin to develop their own interests about their true calling in life. And finally, once they enter adulthood, these people are now expected to play an important role in their families, taking care of their parents in their older years and starting new families of their own through marriage and parenthood themselves. They become active citizens in their communities as civic leaders. They're expected to work hard to make a living, either for others as employees or for themselves as business owners. The accumulation of experience and knowledge ever since their childhood years will influence how people navigate the challenges of adulthood and pursue opportunities for themselves. So this life cycle of raising a child from birth and infancy to the elementary years, to teenage and the young adult period, and then finally to adulthood, should be a familiar pathway. We have all experienced it. Some of us were in the midst of nurturing our own children or working with other people's children through this life cycle. I chose this life cycle analogy because in many ways, closing the entrepreneurial action gap is like nurturing startups. Nurturing startups is like helping young children. We aspire our children to grow up, to become independent, self-sufficient, and successful in their older years. We invest our time and resources and energy into our children because they represent the future. This is a universal truth that applies throughout all the world. When applying this analogy to new ventures, all of us in this room will likely wish the same outcomes of independence, self-sufficiency, and success for the entrepreneurs working hard to launch and grow their businesses. Whether the motivation is to make money, provide jobs, solve an economic or social problem, or to grow the economy, we are likely in agreement that we seek to nurture promising startups in the same way we care for our children. We want them to succeed, and for them to succeed, we need to narrow the entrepreneurial gap. For those of us who have children or work with them on a regular basis, we know that raising them does not always follow a linear pathway. Of course, there are basic principles we learn from our own parents, our communities, teachers, and other experts. But when it comes to actual hands-on practice of raising children, it's not always a single formula that we can use to predict the right outcomes. So similarly, let's not think about nurturing startups as a single approach or a method or a strategy. Instead, let's think about nurturing startups as a portfolio of approaches. Now, I've come to this conclusion after years of studying entrepreneurs and the new ventures that they've started, and from teaching students and other aspiring individuals to launch and grow their businesses. This is why you've had the opportunity to witness and meet an impressive collection of accomplished people throughout this entire weekend, each with their own stories of learning, struggles, and success. So now, let me briefly highlight the 5 different approaches that are in this portfolio, and then I'm going to spend a few minutes going through each one of them with you. Number 1, curiosity and problem solving. Number 2, playfulness and discovery. Number 3, disrupt the status quo. Number 4, emulate good role models, people and businesses. And then number 5, rebound from setbacks and failures. Now, let's spend a few minutes on each of these strategies. Number 1, developing an action mindset for curiosity and problem solving. This requires a curiosity that doesn't wait for answers to be given, but propels individuals to find answers for themselves. It's anticipating new ways of solving stubborn problems. It's having a mindset that embraces uncertainty and the prospects for failure, but persists in finding ways to convert potential obstacles into beneficial opportunities. It's about having the confidence to move ahead without having all the answers in place. Let's take a look at this picture. Do you know where this is from? Yes, that's right, it's from Vietnam. And perhaps there are other countries in this region and throughout the world that suffer from this kind of situation. I still remember the first time when I saw these bundles of wires at the intersection and thought, wow, what a complicated situation we have here. How can the technicians figure out which wires go where if something happens to go wrong? But at the same time, if you look at these bundles, it's actually quite beautiful. That somehow the power connections go from point A to point B, and that there's some sort of order that exists even within this jumbled situation. So I believe that successful entrepreneurs need to find a way out of something like this. It's like a maze that the answer is not always clear, but you have to start somewhere, and you have to be curious enough to solve the problem, to figure out what the correct pathway will be. Obviously, the answers are not all apparent, because if they were, we wouldn't be here. We'd be making millions out there. So let me illustrate this with another example. For this, I need a volunteer. I'd like to have a volunteer to join me on the platform here. So is there someone who's willing to come and join with me? Good morning. Can you say your name for all of us?
Hong Sin.
Hong Sin, thank you for joining me here on the platform.
My pleasure.
It's quite brave of you to join me here.
I like your talk.
Well, thank you very much. So I have a question for you.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you to make a choice.
Right.
And the choice is, you can have something that's in my left pocket or my right pocket. You have one choice to make. And so I hope you make the right choice. Are you nervous about this choice?
No,
You're very brave.
because I'm an entrepreneur.
You're an entrepreneur. All right, so which pocket would you like to choose from?
I'm right-hander, and I like to have the right pocket.
The right pocket. Okay, so let me reach into my right pocket. And I'm pleased to give you an official Babson College signature pen.
Wow, nice.
Thank
Is
you
that
very
all?
much. That's all.
Wow,
Thank you for joining us here.
my pleasure.
Thank you. So can I have another volunteer who might be willing to come up to the audience, or in front of the platform here. I have another gentleman here. Yes, please join me. Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, can you say your name for the audience, please?
My name is Pian.
Thank you, Pian, for joining me here on the platform. So, I'm going to give you the same option.
Yes.
You have option to get something that's in the left pocket or in the right pocket.
Now,
Right now.
left.
You're going for the left pocket.
Because I want to try the way that I'm not similar or not have experience.
Okay, so
enough.
you're going to go the other pathway.
Yes.
Wonderful. So in my left pocket, I get to present you with a 100 baht note. There you go.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much. So what can we learn from this exercise here? Oftentimes, when I run this exercise, it takes a while for someone to raise their hand and volunteer. Why is that? Well, for obvious reasons. You don't know exactly what you're getting yourself into. There's a sense of mystery, adventure, and the unknown. You might be embarrassed. You might be nervous to come up in front of a large audience. So I'm very pleased that there were two of you who took up the invitation to come up and to join me here on the platform. And so I wish that all of you would embrace that kind of curiosity, to seek out the unknown and to jump right into taking action. So at Babson, we encourage students to take action right away, similar to what we just experienced here, and to learn from their efforts rather than overanalyzing or planning beforehand on something that might not even work. We even sponsor an annual competition called the Beta Challenge, and this stands for Babson Entrepreneurial Thought and Action. And this is open to our students and our alumni. So unlike the common business plan competitions, the focus of the Beta Challenge is on action. Contestants must show evidence of tangible action, actual steps that founders have taken to launch and grow their businesses. This can mean producing multiple prototypes and testing them with potential customers. It could be generating initial sales from customers. It could mean forging new relationships or suppliers with manufacturers. So those are some ideas for our first point, an action mindset leading to curiosity and problem solving. So let me move to number 2, playfulness and discovery. Infusing play into the classroom or workplace to promote discovery and new opportunities. Are you ready for another exercise? Great. So here's how it works. I want you to think of an animal, and then I want you to think of the sound that animal makes. If you don't know what the sound is for the animal you chose, go ahead and make it up. There are no rules about a right sound, the correct sound, or an incorrect sound. Okay, so does everybody have an animal and a sound associated with that animal? Wonderful. So I'd like for you to stand up and walk around and greet your neighbors and make that animal sound that you've just thought about. All right, thank you very much, and you can come back to your seats. Thank you for all of those who participated in this exercise. Your sounds were quite impressive, even up here. So at Babson, we make silly sounds, we act like animals, we make funny poses, and throughout all these exercises, we laugh, we make memories to share afterwards. Why do we do this? We help promote play and discovery to help us to be more creative in the nurturing process of becoming an entrepreneur. For example, many of our classes specifically teach students creativity techniques to build their confidence in not only tackling ambiguous problems, but to create new opportunities that might not be initially apparent. So let me give you an assignment. Try this once a day. Pick a common object. For example, a pen, similar to the pen I just gave away a few minutes ago. Write down as many applications you can think of for this object. Don't worry if they are correct or incorrect, silly or for real. Go for volume. Try to fill up an entire page of ideas of how you can use a common object for a different purpose. Why would you want to do this? Because research on creativity shows that the importance of generating lots of initial starter ideas, creating volume of ideas so that eventually the single idea that you conclude with will be the right idea that you can take to the next level. Without a lot of initial ideas, you won't have the variance, the opportunities, the options from which to select the best idea at the end. Let me give you another technique, and this technique is called yes and. Think about the situations you've been in where you're discussing ideas to solve a problem, to create new opportunities, to resolve a conflict. Oftentimes we catch ourselves or we find ourselves saying no, but whenever a new idea is generated. When you find yourself doing that the next time, make a rule. Instead of saying no, but, use the phrase yes and. Build on your friends or your colleagues or the others in your conversation. After they introduce their idea, say yes and. Let's do that together. Yes and. Yes and. So if you do that and you put yourself in a practice of using this phrase, you will expand the possibilities of ideas that you create rather than constricting them. So that was the second strategy of encouraging playfulness and discovery with the techniques that I've shared with you. Let me move on to the third strategy. Disrupt the status quo. Disrupt the status quo. So while it's tempting to instill order and predictability as a way to nurture startups, the more promising strategy is to encourage opportunities to disrupt the status quo. We need to inspire entrepreneurs and their fledgling startups to push the boundaries of current thinking. We want them to imagine new possibilities that don't currently exist. Why? To succeed, entrepreneurs need to differentiate their offerings sufficiently enough from other competition or substitutes that already exist. Or else, their potential customers will not be attracted enough to give up what they do in favor of what you will offer to them. So, entrepreneurship is about disrupting the status quo, offering new ways of solving persistent problems or satisfying unfulfilled needs that exist in the marketplace. Think for a moment about the pioneers in a new field, the notable entrepreneurs who created new industries or radically changed existing competitive landscapes. One common element among all of these individuals is their ability to disrupt the status quo. At Babson, we have several academic centers that complement the work that takes place in our classrooms. I'd like to highlight one of these centers called the Lewis Institute for Social Innovation. It sponsors a variety of activities that bring together students, faculty, and staff with change makers that inspire everyone to pursue projects that make a difference in the world. My colleague Cheryl Kaiser, who directs the Lewis Institute, likes to use the phrase positive disruption to describe these projects. Change makers are the individuals who lead efforts to positively disrupt the status quo in ways that benefit society. The Lewis Institute sponsors an annual Changemaker Award that is given to students, alumni, staff, and faculty who have set something in motion to promote positive change. These actions could be at any stage, whether at initial conversations to identify the core issues or something more substantive that reflects a deeper level of engagement. At Babson, we host an annual ceremony to give out Changemaker Awards. This is only one example of how we instill an attitude of challenging the status quo. We often invite these changemakers into our community, the people who through their life's work are making a positive difference in their communities to speak and interact with our students. The forces of inertia will continue to bear down on any effort involving change. So nurturing startups will require a countervailing force against this inertia that encourages entrepreneurs to think and act in ways that can promote positive change and disrupt the status quo. Here's an example of a Babson graduate, John Feynman, and his efforts to promote positive change in a difficult part of Boston. I'm going to ask the tech team to display a video where he explains to all of us a business that he started called Inner City Weightlifting while he was a student at Babson College.
We had guys getting shot. We had guys going in and out of jail. We had guys that were getting killed. And the idea that they could just show up at a gym at 3 o'clock, work out together, cool down together, it completely ignored the challenges that they were going through outside of the gym. And these are young people that if you were to ask them day one where they're going to be in a year, they're all going to say the same thing. I'm going to be dead or I'm going to be in jail. So weight training just happened to be this positive, logical alternative that could, if nothing else, get them off the streets and into the gym. These are young people, most of them have been shot, all except for a couple have done significant jail time, and they're training Microsoft. They're training people from 6- and 7-figure backgrounds. And all of a sudden what we see is that these two worlds come together. And all of a sudden our students see the world and they're seen by the world in a very different way, which creates a systemic change so that our students don't go home to the same street where everything is going wrong, but now they go home to a community of hope, a community of support, the same community that they come to the gym to find. To me, entrepreneurship is doing. It's mitigating risks and taking action. It's finding where need, want, and opportunity all intersect and really staying focused on that. And also at the same time understanding that there's a million different ways to get there. And you're not going to know which one's right until you start actually doing what you say you're going to do.
So in your own professional or personal lives, are there people or organizations that deserve a Changemaker Award? Who are they? And why do you believe they deserve to be recognized? I want you to think about that. Think about that for the rest of today and the days to come. And please do make an effort after you leave here to recognize these people or organizations you've nominated for the positive disruptions they're making in society. So let's move on to strategy number 4. Emulating good role models. I argue that role models are vital for entrepreneurs to study and emulate. Sometimes it's appropriate to follow key principles that these role models can offer, or employ a template for creating a strategy for action. Cognitive psychologists call this Analogical Reasoning. It is a problem-solving method useful when people lack deep expertise in a subject matter and apply relevant insights from a different domain to solve problems. Several years ago, two authors, John Mullins and Randy Komisar, published a book called Getting to Plan B that highlighted the usefulness of analogical reasoning for entrepreneurs. The approach is quite straightforward. Find appropriate analogs, current or past, individuals, companies that are similar to the venture you wish to create, and then study them carefully. Learn how they make decisions. Understand their successes and shortcomings. Then, apply what you've learned to your own ventures. And besides using analogs for learning about positive attributes to replicate, they can also serve as contrasting points of differentiation. You can do the opposite of the analog. This technique is called an anti-log. So you have analogs that you would replicate, anti-logs that you would use to differentiate. Researchers call this kind of learning vicarious learning because you're learning from the actions of others. So you might not have the personal learning or the personal experience yourself, but you can benefit by studying the actions of others. Analogs can be helpful when you need to communicate your venture concept to others. For example, we all know about Uber and its platform for on-demand services. But as you probably realize, this particular platform doesn't simply stop with providing passenger rides. For example, there's an Uber for trucking called Convoy. There's an Uber for shopping in the US called Instacart. In fact, there is an Uber for washing clothes and laundry, and many different models that exist in startups, at least here in the US. So that's the fourth strategy, using analogical reasoning to emulate good role models to help you learn from others. Now let me come to my last strategy, rebounding from setbacks and failures. Educators have long grappled with the basic question of how people learn from their own experiences. This is a complex question. Within the context of entrepreneurship, there's really no clear-cut answers. From my own research, I've discovered that startup experience and performance does not follow a linear pathway. In other words, simply having more experience does not necessarily guarantee a better outcome. Instead, the benefits of experience is more like a U-shaped relationship. There's a dip in performance early on, and only after multiple attempts does performance improve. So what does this mean practically for nurturing startups? Having initial success may cause founders to be overconfident in their decision-making and ability to predict the future. Such hubris leads to what researchers call superstitious learning, a false sense of learning from past actions. And so we have to be careful and watch out for this form of learning. Improvements in performance will occur only with practice and likely multiple failed attempts. So despite the mantra of failing fast and failing forward, let's be honest, few of us really embrace failure in a way that allows us to do this productively. In fact, as you probably know, in Asia and in Thailand, the fear of failure is quite high as a part of the culture. Moreover, something like entrepreneurship requires long periods of time to fully extract all the key lessons in learning. But on average, people experience only one opportunity or one spell of entrepreneurship in their lifetimes. Serial entrepreneurs are a rare event. So what can we do to address this learning issue? At Babson, we have multiple opportunities for students to pursue their entrepreneurial ideas in a relatively safe environment at school. All of our students are required to take an entrepreneurship course, 100%. The incoming undergraduate students take a year-long course called the Foundations of Management in Entrepreneurship. In this course, they launch, grow, and close down a business in the course of a year. They receive a small loan from the school, and any profits that are generated will be donated to a local charity. Similarly, all graduate students are required to take a course in their first term in their core curriculum. At Babson, we also have a highly experienced staff who run a venture accelerator named after the Butler family who provided some initial funding for the accelerator. Its staff meets with students to coach them on their ideas and to help them progress through the development process, regardless of whatever stage they are in that process. They host regular workshops and speaker series. The unique feature of our accelerator is that it works closely with our academic curriculum. While students are taking courses, they can participate in the accelerator programs and put into practice right away what they're learning in the classroom. I also want to highlight another one of our academic centers, the Center for Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership. It was founded in 1999 as the first major comprehensive academic center focused on women's leadership and entrepreneurship at a premier business school. Sewell, as it's called, serves as a learning laboratory, a hub for role models and thought leadership, and advances initiatives that support the efforts of women as contributors to social and economic value everywhere. One of the programs Sewell sponsors is called the WIN Labs. WIN stands for Women Innovating Now. It's a year-long program designed for a cohort of women entrepreneurs to receive mentoring, to build a support network, and to operate in a safe environment to test out their ideas. Here's a short video describing the program in the words of the WIN Lab participants.
Being an entrepreneur is not an easy ride. There should be an opportunity to foster the creativity that women have and give them a better chance. The best place, I thought, would be to partner with Babson College. The WIN Lab is an accelerator for women to start their own ventures.
WIN stands for Women Innovating Now. We wanted to create a different kind of environment for women that wanted to launch companies, an environment where they felt safe to explore their ideas, where they could challenge each other.
We use women role models and women mentors and women coaches, women CEOs that come in and share their expertise.
I didn't have that. As an entrepreneur, I didn't have the network that the winners have today, and that's huge.
Every Friday you have 3 hours set aside. We're not worrying about anything else besides your business, with women who are going through the same challenges.
We met so many founders, CEOs of companies. We did a funding pitch in front of a panel. Are actually happy with their interior decor. And being able to present in front of them was a really great experience too, and it was unique, something that I had never actually done before.
These are real women who have done this, they've been through this, and they're like, you're gonna get through this. It was like having a support system of women to keep you accountable.
My favorite part of the program were the company visits that we got to go on. And those were amazing experiences because we kind of got to see the day in the life of.
For me, WIN was really about the community of women that were all supporting each other to launch our businesses.
We've all been able to establish a really good relationship with each other, and just having that support system there and that network is the secret sauce.
I think being a woman entrepreneur has particular challenges associated with it, and so it's been really remarkable to see how the winners have come together, been vulnerable with each other, helped motivate each other, and I think all of those things have really contributed to the power of the program.
I think WIN impacted me as a person in that I'm not as scared anymore.
Because of WIN, I have the tools to launch a successful business.
WIN taught me to be bold, be fierce, don't back down.
Always dream big, fight for my ideas.
I've come a long way from where I started. It was a great opportunity I don't think I would have had anywhere else.
So I'd like to end my address by revisiting the puzzle that I described at the beginning of my talk and reviewing the strategies for addressing it. Throughout the world, people face the entrepreneurial action gap that separate those who think positively about entrepreneurship as a career choice with those who actually pursue it. Just like it takes different strategies for raising a child to adulthood, I've outlined 5 strategies that academic institutions can follow to help bridge this gap, especially for young people early in their careers. Once again, number 1, embracing an action mindset for curiosity, problem solving, and action. Number 2, encouraging playfulness and discovery. Number 3, disrupting the status quo. Number 4, emulating good role models, people and businesses. And then number 5, practicing rebounding from setbacks and failures in a safe environment. So which side of the entrepreneurial action gap do you want to be? On the side of interest or on the side of action? By implementing these strategies, I hope you find ways to bridge this gap. I hope you gain the confidence to venture into the unknown. I hope you find yourself on the side that takes action and pursues your entrepreneurial dreams. Our graduates are living out the mission of the school. They are creating economic and social value everywhere. They are expressing their creativity and finding ways to advance the human condition. This is a mission that speaks to me and hopefully to all of you, and I hope that you will join me in whatever circles that you are in to encourage entrepreneurs to go out and to create value wherever they are. So I'd like to end with one more video summarizing these objectives. It's a video that I like to use when I end my sessions in my courses because it summarizes many of the themes that we've covered today in this talk. So if the tech crew can cue up the video, let's watch this final installment. So thank you for your attention and for allowing me to share some ideas with you about nurturing startups this morning. You've been a wonderful audience. Thank you very much. I'd be happy to take a few questions before we conclude our session.
Any question? Okay. The microphone will go to you immediately. Feel free to ask your question, everyone.
Hi, I just wanted to ask, is Babson having presence in Thailand? Or, people who is interested in the entrepreneurship course has to travel all the way to Boston?
Obviously, most of our programming does take place in the Boston region, and so we do highly encourage students to seek out our programs in Boston. We do have some collaborative partnerships in Thailand, and I believe we are still working with Bangkok University with some local initiatives here in the region, but most of our efforts are taking place in the Boston area.
Thank you.
Any other questions? ท่านใดมีคำถามอื่นอีกไหมคะ Well, it seems like everybody get a lot of your inspiration for this insightful the keynote presentation. ขอเสียงปรบมือดังๆเพื่อขอบคุณให้กับ Professor Philip Kim ค่ะ Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you for motivating us. It's the final days of Startup Thailand 2016. It's about the community day. Like we're talking about the networking is the key. All the opportunity that you can create by your own business idea that can make the world changing, that can create the better life of the people of the world. Thank you very much again. เชื่อว่าหลายท่านคงอยาก